everyone, and welcome to chapter 14 or chapter 29 of The Last Thoughts of a Busy Mind. It's the penultimate chapter, so yeah. Well, a lot of things happened this week, and I still don't have a good idea what to call the episode. I usually do this stuff before, but this time I really don't know. Oh, by the way, our drink today is not Coke Zero, it's glucosal syrup and water. The longtime listeners of this show know that. It has had many a triumphant returns. Anyways, let's get to the meat of this episode. A lot of things happened. First of all, my movie is officially postponed, and I need to make another project. Secondly, I played Sid Meier's Pirates, and that was the more exciting news. It's a really good game. I mean, really good. Like, surprisingly good. I really loved it. I might have named the episode, if you are listening to it, Sid Meier's Pirates. It's really good. And that got me thinking about what if I made a video game? Ooh. Actually, there are a lot of other things. I watched Mandalorian season 2, and for another podcast that I am doing with my friend called the YASP, short for Yet Another Shitty Podcast. And I actually do urge you to go and listen to that. It's kind of good, if I say so myself. And yeah, that aside, um, let's talk about what I had planned for this week, which is my own video game. Ooh, and I have a lot of Peter Molyneux style promises to give for a game that I'm not even making. But I had an idea. First of all, it's a series, not just one, and it's Year of the Wolf, which, if I know correctly, means Year of the Fox. Volpe is fox in Latin, unless it's. Let me just double check. What is Volpe in English? It's fox, but it's Romanian, not. It's fox. Anyways, the reason for that is it's a alternate history series where there is a new constellation in the sky. You have the 12 one, but there's a new one which resembles a fox. They call it the night fox. And that night fox is doing some weird stuff. It's emitting energy or some bullshit. And that means we live with this world of monsters now as part of our day to day life, vampires and such. And this is as I said, a history thing, and it starts during the American colonies. The British, actually, one of the things they did was, you remember when Australia was a prison colony? They sent all of the vampires and sort of persecute them and send them to the American colonies, and they go to uh, Virginia, uh, and establish their own little community. They are much smaller than humans in numbers, so they need to be careful. So that's one uh, part of it. I'm sorry. The other is, I always thought this part of Abraham Lincoln, a vampire hunter. I don't remember the book that much because I read it right after I watched the movie and I thought to myself, this is boring. The movie did it so much better. Even though the book had Edgar Allan Poe, which I think the movie also needed, but there's this part of the movie that they say vampires are using slave trade to sort of feed themselves because, of course. And I thought, well, why not use that plot point too? And so it's 1776. The American colonies want to do uh, sort of a independence. Well, as we know from the musical 1776. And there's this guy whose name is Richard Henry Lee. Virginia is his home. His name is Richard Henry Lee. Virginia is his home. And may his horses turn to glue if he can deliver unto them resolution for independency. This is from the musical. And I actually didn't want to mention Richard Henry Lee. The more important character is John Adams. But they want to declare independency. One of the forces that needs slavery in, aside from, if you watch the movie Rutledge and Dickinson, no, not Dickinson. Dickinson really doesn't care about slavery. It's Rutledge that really does. Aside from them, the vampires faction do have their own delegates and they want to keep the slavery in. In the meantime, there is a new colony somewhere around Wisconsin. There is that lake in the middle of a lake, like an island, and it's a new parcel of land basically. And because I need a new place that doesn't have all of the rules and regulations of the real life that I can modify to my needs. So yeah, there is that, and there is a new political party there called the Survivalist, which is kind of like a fascist were against vampires. They do believe that vampires are sort of a menace and they need to unionize the whole of the human race and wage war against vampires. What is the game? I was thinking that it'll be a sort of a, how do I say it? Political party game? Not that political machine game, which I actually think is really lazy, or democracy, which is really kind of lacks humanity in a way. It's a great game, but it's more management style. I don't want it to be management. I want it to be human interaction. Like, okay, you create your own character, delegate from this new colony. You can choose your own party. You don't have to be survivalist. You go in and try to achieve a goal. Doesn't matter. You choose your own goal at the beginning. Either stop the vampires, stop American independence, start American independence. Def try to persuade them to really do abolish slavery from the start, or even worse, make it unconstitutional to ever take away slavery, sort of fucking up Lincoln and all of that in the future. And so you go around talking to these different delegates: John Adams, Rutledge, John Dickinson, Richard Henry Lee, Thomas Jefferson, all of these people, and sort of play them in a game of complicated chess. Like, okay, promise them stuff, promise them resolutions or votes, and then ask them for stuff, and they can cheat you. I know this is basically just AI magic, and I don't understand it, even though, again, to plug YASP. We did talk about AI extensively. I still don't understand it very much. So yeah, that's the game I had in mind, but with a more human touch. If you want something from, for example, John Dickinson, and there are a few ways you can take it from him. A, promise him a bunch of resources from your colony. B, promise him your vote. C, promise him a resolution. D, try to trick him into accepting your point of view. E, debate him until he wears off, or it might backfire and he might get more resilient. Maybe F, I'm sorry, I don't know why I did that. I should have gone 1, 2, 3. Go behind his back, either around his other delegates, like was it George Wilson? I know American History from 1776, the musical, so yeah, he's basically a rip-off on that. Or Benjamin Franklin and try to get them to vote against him. Or A, B, C, D, E, F, G, try to convey him personally, like become his friend, and or go behind his back and ask his wife to force him, all of that stuff. And I was thinking, like, you have a period of a month and you have to balance all of these stuff and get a goal. At the end of the day, at the end of the month, is the 4th of July, and based on your actions, one of something will happen. Either America is independent, is made and with a slavery or without a slavery, or with vampires or without vampires, or what faction has more power than the others, all of that stuff, or it's not made, what is the constitution, what happening, all of that. So that is oh, okay. Here's the beauty of it. Then you save your game. It's the end, and you can go back and play and all of that. Then comes the next game in the series. Or the first one we're going to call Year After Volpe 1776. Of course, the next one we're going to call Year After Volpe 1801. Because that's when, if I know correctly, that's when John Adams leaves office and Thomas Jefferson comes in. And then it's an exploration game, sort of like, what is that game where you walk around in the forest? Not the forest, which is actually quite a good game. Firewatch. You are exploring the map of the America, and based on your choices on the 1776 version of the game, the map will be different. It's either vampire ridden, slave ridden, or they are militias, or they are actually not American. You might be even British at that point still. And people talk about, and it's more artsy fartsy, but you go around exploring stuff and influencing people, either rising militias to yet again try for independency, or putting them down to blind the hope of independency. Again, the survivalist faction will try to launch an attack against the vampires if they are even in the minority. So you need to either help them or stop them. You can either help the vampires or stop the vampires, all of that. But by the end of it, you actually again have a bunch of stuff that is happening. Either America did another run for independency and won, or all of the hopes of independency is gone. And based on all of that, we go into the next game, which is Year After Volpe 1865, which, as you would have guessed, is a strategy game around Civil War. Now, for Civil War to happen exactly as it did in the history, you need to went exactly as it did in the history, but now South has vampires and North has survivalists. But Um, if you didn't, then there is some other war. The war needs to happen. Let's face it. But it might be British colonies against is it a French or a Spanish? I think it's the Spanish colonies. If it might be again South versus North, it might be vampires against survivalists. And this time you're playing a strategy game, but this is the part that I sort of would love is that it won't be a win all. Like I don't want it to be either win or the story won't advance. I want it to be even lose. Sort of like if I was thinking, sort of also like a Rome Total War, but not like Rome Total War in the sense that okay, turn based, then game becomes a strategy game. I want it to be simultaneous. There was another game that was like this. I don't remember it. I think it was Europe Universalis. I might be wrong. Anyways, I was also thinking RTS, not turn based, but I know how hard this can be. So yeah, you're like basically in charge of a platoon, and you do missions at first, then you become a general, sort of advancing, or you might keep lose and lose and lose and even become a private, basically making the game into an FPS. And based on your actions in the previous games, your army might be weak or strong. You might opted for military training during the 1800s, and so your faction, your party does have a good amount of soldiers who are actually very well trained, and so they are stronger. Or you might have cut military training, all of that stuff. The best part is I don't want people to know what to expect, so they don't um, anticipate what to do. They can. I mean, when all of the games in the series come out, they can play from the beginning and sort of know what will happen in the future. So it may take away the replayability a bit, but I'm pretty sure in the meantime it will be a good experience. I mean, I would love something like this. Anyways, I've been talking for like 17 minutes. No, 15 minutes because 2 minutes, first 2 minutes was not about these games, about a fantasy video game that I'm not even in the making, but I would love to make. I might name this Year of the Volpe, but I don't know if people will know what I mean. So I might name it Idea for a Video Game. And yeah, then there are more. I was thinking after 1860, we do 1900, then 1920, and then 1970, which is the last one, which is the big one, out Cyberpunk 2077, hopefully without the bugs, the action adventure RPG. And it's going to be so big, and all of the stuff you've done so far in the series will affect the game. And that's where the fact that I said I need a new colony comes into play, because um, if you manage to do American independence and you have the states, it might become a state, and then if we can actually build it as well as we like with monuments to fake characters that you've made it throughout the game. Like, since your delegate is from this colony, there might have be a statue of the character we designed. Anyways, I have less than a minute left. If you are listening to this on YouTube, do go on Anchor and send me a message. If you look in the description, there is a link. If you are listening to this on Anchor, there is actually a link for sending me a message. Do send me a message. Or there's actually also a link there to my YouTube channel. Go and subscribe to the YouTube channel. There are other stuff there. I recently put up a movie that I made, my first movie in college, so you might be interested in that. It's in Persian though. And with that, I hope I see you next week. And next week will be the last episode. Goodbye.